How about smashing their faces?
What is the best way for conservatives to counter the mob mentality?
For one thing, understand what it is and understand how mobs are always dangerous. I mean, one of the points I make in the book, and sort of a central point to the overall arc of the book, is the civil rights movement gave mobs a halo. It was the first time the mobs were deployed on behalf of a good cause. I think that weakened Americans' resistance and hatred of mobs, and it should be a hatred of mobs. I mean, the country throughout its history, the Federalist Papers, the Shays Rebellion, how we were founded as a country, was anti-mob. And there have been mob uprisings, but they were always crushed, because a mob is a very dangerous thing and it can destroy society overnight. I think the civil rights movement, I mean, you see it with liberals. They claim every ridiculous cause they have when they run out onto the streets or start smashing Starbucks windows. They always claim, oh, it's just like the civil rights movement. Would you be against Martin Luther King? No. A, there's nothing like the civil rights movement. And B, although I've gotten a little off track, we didn't really need it. Thurgood Marshall was bringing cases and winning cases. It could have been done the American way and not the French Revolution way. But the final chapter, what I get to and what I conclude with, I mean, we came close to the French Revolution in the 60s with the Weathermen and the SDS and blowing up buildings and assassinating people. Nixon shut it down pretty fast, and hard hats in New York, and governors, and you had the shooting at Kent State, and that put an end to the campus riots. I don't know that conservatives or peaceable Americans would react that harshly today, because as Tolstoy said in The Demon, something that I also quote, very prescient on the coming Russian Revolution, people who have been living in peace, and conservatives, you know, we don't like disorder. We don't even like disorder on behalf of defending order. And so the hectoring point of my last chapter is, when you are faced with a mob, you must overreact. Always overreact. You cannot reason with a mob. You must call out the National Guard, press charges. If you're attacked, you better fight back and you better call the police. And don't say, oh, I'm not a litigious person. I'm just going to let the fact that an appendage of mine was just bitten off by a liberal, an actual event. No, I won't press charges. Or the two lunatics, who stood up in the middle of Sarah Palin's speech to the Republican National Convention. Only 2 newspapers reported that. These 2 crazy women start advancing toward the stage in the middle of a major party's national convention, hundreds of millions of dollars, years in the making, and if you see it on YouTube, you see the male guards standing there talking to their walkie-talkies. They're frozen. They're like soldiers. They are like Louis XVI faced with the barbaric mobs in Paris. How about smashing their faces? How about dragging them out by the hair? How about arresting them and pressing charges? No. Eventually, the lunatics are stopped. If Sarah Palin, you wonder, can't this party find a man to run for vice president? No, apparently we can't. The men are standing there letting lunatics advance on the stage, and they did not press charges against the women. They asked them not to do it again. And guess what they did the next night during John McCain's speech? They're right back screeching in the middle of his speech. And by the way, it made Republicans look stupid. I was talking to one of my friends on the phone during the convention, and it really drove him crazy every time the Republican audience would start chanting USA. And he said, this really makes Republicans look stupid. Why do they keep chanting USA? They're like frat boys. They're like idiot frat boys. And I said, no, I promise you, I give a lot of speeches. The reason they're chanting that is because there's a heckler. They're drowning out the heckler. But it makes us look stupid. Nobody knows. Nobody reports on the hecklers. No, you must always overreact to a mob, and Americans shouldn't imagine that it could never happen here. It happened in the greatest nation in continental Europe. And overnight, France was turned into a human abattoir. And it happened perhaps not as advanced societies, but reasonably advanced for the time, in Russia, in Cuba, in Cambodia, and even if it's just a little bit of the mob, like we had in the 60s, that went from 0 to 100 pretty fast.
I gotta ask you, was it bad karma for Anthony Weiner to have Bill Clinton officiate his wedding?
I just hope it's not bad karma that I was really hoping for a slow news week the week my book came out. On the other hand, there are probably a lot of people watching news this week.
That is true. And the book is Demonic: How the Liberal Mob is Endangering America. You know you want it, and you know you're going to get it. The one and only Ann Coulter, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason.